Hey friends, it's Missy again. Thanks for being here today. I am back with a new layout for the Hip Kit Club, and I'm using the 2018 April kits for this. And I started sorting through all of the Pink Fresh Studio goodies this month, and there are some chipboard pieces and some puffy stickers, and they just had a lot of phrases that sort of spoke to me and my daughters and some of the pictures that I have of them. And so I'm going to sort of let these pieces dictate my layout, and I'm going to use these pictures. And if you've followed my channel for a while, then you know that my daughters are hardly ever in a photo together. And so these are some pictures from a few years ago where Reese was sitting on the couch and Paige was sitting beside her. And I went and grabbed my camera, and Paige just kind of leaned into her. And of course, I had to take as many pictures as I could because that never happens. And so I wanted to kind of focus on that and use some of those elements to kind of showcase that. So I'm going to use white cardstock as my background, and I just covered it with some clear gesso. And at this point, I really had no idea what kind of design I wanted to do. I just knew kind of what I wanted to use in the photos. So I just started going for it and making a background. And I chose to start with the color kit this month. We get the Dilutions Polished Jade Shimmer Spray. It's a very, very bold, rich, beautiful, shimmery green color that you see there. And I decided to mix and match it with some of the Distress Oxides that we've got in past color kits over the last 6 or so months. I've got the Cracked Pistachio and the Peacock Feathers. And I'm just kind of smudging it on with an ink blending tool and then using a little bit of water on my brush to kind of blend it. I always like to kind of mix and match products and just try to get a couple of different shades of the color. And so I thought the base of this layout would be green, which is not a color that I tend to go for, this much usually, but I thought, why not do something different? Because the whole concept of this layout is celebrating being different and celebrating just being yourself. And if you're familiar with autism, then you definitely have to kind of embrace the tiny victories. And that's going to be the title. I'm going to use that green chipboard piece, and that's what it says, Tiny Victories. Because in our house, tiny victories are huge. I mean, just simple little things that, normal people wouldn't even think twice about, we celebrate as a huge accomplishment. Just sitting on the couch next to your sister, that's huge in our house because that never happens. And so all of these circle elements really spoke to me. There's one that says, "This is real life." The black one up top says, "Embrace the imperfections." And the one beside it with the circle says, "Awkward as usual." Because if you know anything about autism, then you know it's definitely awkward. And so I thought that's perfect. And then down at the bottom, that peachy colored one it says "Perfectly Imperfect." And then another one down there says "Flaws, Mistakes, Imperfections, Life." And so I thought, all of these just fit. So I'm going to use all of them. And that sort of spawned on a whole circle idea. So I took some of the pattern papers and punched some circles out of them. I also used that Project Life card right there with the flowers to punch some circles. So I decided to kind of add in all these other colors. At first I thought I might just do sort of a mostly green layout, but it just sort of developed into a very colorful layout. And I'm going to use the photos right there in the middle, not super straight. I want them kind of crooked. And then I'm going to use a couple of flower die cuts from the Paige Evans Pick Me Up collection from the Ephemera. And then I'm just going to sort of create a vertical design with these flowers. And I thought I would use a little layer with this piece that I used last week when I used the die cut. But you wind up not even really being able to see it. But I thought, well, I had this scrap. I might as well see if I can use it. But it gets covered up, but it's not a big deal. So yeah, I just decided to kind of add all the colors. And my photos, I printed those in black and white because she's laying on a blanket that's got all these colors in it, and the couch is tan. There was just, and it was at night, so the photos were kind of grainy, and photos can take on a whole new light when you print them in black and white, and sometimes they can look a lot better. So that's why they're black and white. Now I wanted to kind of fade out some of the circles, so I'm just kind of scraping over some white gesso just to kind of give them a little bit of interest and texture. And I also did a little bit of machine stitching. I did that off camera on most of the circles. I did some zigzag and some straight stitching, and just to add more pops of color and texture. And then I like to add a little bit of tissue paper behind my pictures, just to add another layer, another little border of separation between the background and the pictures. And then if you look in the middle of the pictures, there's a perfect part of just empty space. And so it's going to allow me to put that green circle right in the middle on top of the pictures. And I'm not covering up anyone's head or anything, you know, that's important in the pictures. So, and then that is the first, to me, when I look at it, that's the first thing that I read, because it's right there on top of the pictures. And so I'm going to let that be my title, even though it's very tiny. I felt like it was appropriate, and I felt like it was good. You know, I didn't really save a place for a bigger title with bigger alphas, and since it's talking about tiny victories, I thought a tiny title would work. So I added a couple of different shades of pink thread down there at the bottom underneath that flower die cut. And then I'm just going to start to sort through things. There were a lot of things I wanted to use, but I was trying to stick to the circles for most things. And these are sticky, these chipboard pieces, but since I have that gritty gesso on the background, I just want to be safe, more safe than sorry, and add some glue behind those to stick those down, because usually things will not stick when there's gesso involved, especially the clear gesso, because it's gritty and things just don't want to stick to it. So I'm going to start to glue things down. I like how this is looking. It's definitely really not the idea I had in mind when I started this. It just sort of took on a life of its own, and you know, that happens sometimes, and you just kind of roll with it and go with it and use what you can. I added that little red sticker up at the top, but I wind up taking it off because I don't really have any red anywhere else, and it was just sort of standing out to me, and I thought I don't want to have to search and add a bunch of other red elements, so I'm going to change that up. I am going to use a couple of these open gold puffy hearts from Crate Paper. And in case you haven't seen, Hip Kit Club is having a giant online crop this weekend for National Scrapbooking Day. There's going to be giveaways, prizes, a huge sale on all kinds of things, so make sure you check that out in the member forum. Starts Friday night. I can't remember the exact time, but it starts Friday night, all day Saturday, and most of the day Sunday. All the design team members are going to have challenges like every hour or every 2 hours. Tons of stuff going on, tons of inspiration. And so, yeah, everybody's going to have different games going on, different things to do. So bring your scrapping game on Friday, because we're going to be having lots of fun over the weekend. So now that I've got everything glued down, I realized that I needed some more background work over on the right, because I have a lot on the left, but not a lot on the right. So I just kind of subtly, is that a word? Subtly? No, sounds wrong. Anyway, I go ahead and add in a little bit more, kind of just around the picture, and I'm just doing the same thing I did earlier. I'm using the Distress Oxides and that Dilutions in my brush, just to add a little bit of green. And I like how that's looking. Another reason I like black and white pictures is just because they pop off the page when you've got all these colors. It's just easy to make them pop, and you can use any color scheme you want when you've got black and white pictures. Now, if the photo is really good and the colors go, and you know, I kind of do both. Sometimes I want my picture in color. It just depends on the picture and the products and all that good stuff. I added some black splatters, and I get asked a little bit, or a lot actually, of what I'm using for my black splatters. That did not come in a color kit. That's in my stash, and it is a shimmers. It's a colorings, and it's called Night Moves, and it's just your basic black ink, and I really like it. I wanted to jazz up the sides, and I've done this several times. This is sort of, I don't know, I've been in the mood to do this lately on lots of my layouts, and that's add some pattern paper to the sides. And so I cut a little strip, stick it down, and then kind of cut and tear the cardstock up. So then you can kind of see the paper behind it. And so I did this on both sides using one of the Paige Evans Pick Me Up papers because it has all the colors in it that I used. And I think that just kind of finishes off the page, and it gives it a fun little messy tear on the sides. And I am going to machine stitch through that off camera, but I'm going to add a little bit of lines here using my T-square ruler, and I got that several years ago at Joann.com, and it was only like $2.50. It was super cheap, but I really like it because it's perfect for making sure your lines are straight. So all I'm going to do here to finish this up is add a little bit of journaling, and I do add the date and the stitching on the sides, but that's it. I like how this turned out. I love the content, I guess you could say, or the subject. I thought all of these little pieces matched what I was trying to say, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions. There you can see I did some stitching, some zigzag stitching there. If you have any questions about any of the kits or the techniques or anything at all, I'll be more than happy to answer. I want to thank you guys for sticking around and watching, and I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next time.